as I said last week, I am continuing on my kind of theme about university at the minute with a kind of story time about my literal flatmates from hell. Oh god. So obviously with moving into a university flat for the first time, I was shitting myself. I was terrified about who I was living with. I knew that one of the people I was living with was on my course as we chatted on like a chat. So that made things a little bit easier, but I was still very nervous to move in with them. Kind of open mind thinking, hopefully these people will be really nice that I can like get on with. And I was really looking forward to it, even though I was scared out of my life. So it comes to moving day in September. I travelled down to Preston with far too much stuff. Moving in started to go okay. I met one of the girls called Mai, who was a Japanese student who was very quiet. Rarely ever heard anything from her during the year. I saw her come and go sometimes. I said hello to her in the kitchen, but other than that I barely ever saw her. I met the girl on my course who recognised me, and obviously we said hello. She turned out to be in the room literally next door to mine, so I was quite happy about that at first. And then I met my last flatmate, who was a girl called Rummy from, I think she's from London. She seemed nice, and then as months went on, things started to change. I'm literally getting like PTSD off this because things started off fine, living as flatmates do, just everyone pottering about, keeping themselves to themselves, obviously as we didn't know each other. But for living in a flat of 4, my living room slash kitchen was huge for some reason. We had a massive like living area. So when we were doing stuff with my friends, we would sometimes suggest coming round to mine, as I had like the bigger place, plus there was 2 other people who lived in the building, so it was kind of the area, like the place where we normally went sometimes. This girl had a noise problem. Now when I say that, it makes me sound like we were really noisy students, we were always having parties and stuff like that, but really we weren't. Like, we did have times where people would come around and we'd be having some drinks and stuff like that, and we'd be listening to music, but that was mainly what it was. We never really like got mega loud. We sometimes messed about, which is fair enough, but if you think about it, we were living in student halls. Like, the flat opposite from where we lived were literally the loudest people ever, yet I was the one who always got in trouble for some reason. First it was kind of, she would come in and be like, ask us to turn it down, which was fair enough. We'd turn it down a little bit, and that was that. It then started to develop into, I would be playing music in my bedroom and she would come and knock on my door and ask me to turn it down. This started to kind of irk me a little bit. I was like, okay, fair enough, the kind of noise with my friends. But when it's the middle of the day and I'm sat trying to study or something like that, or do my work, I like having music on. I can't just sit in silence. It turned to me playing my guitar. In the middle of the day, she would come and tell me to turn it down or stop because she could hear it. And I'm like, how can you hear that from like 2 doors down? And again, it continued and it just kept happening. All the while, for her kind of cooking method, she would go into the kitchen, put like rice on or pasta, and to signify that her stuff was done cooking, she would walk away and leave it on the burner until the fire alarm went off. When you're trying to do work and your flatmate keeps setting the frigging fire alarm off, it's a little bit distracting, and it happened on the regular. My friends can back me up on this, and it literally happened so often. I would walk into the kitchen when the fire alarm's going off and her stuff would be burning. But she did this with everything, with rice, pasta, vegetables, anything she was cooking, she would leave until it started to burn or until the fire alarm went off. And did I do anything about it? Did I? Hell. She still continued on to go at me about music and noise, to the point of giving up with her altogether. We eventually just stopped talking at all, but that didn't stop it. Hell no, that did not stop it. One of the kind of incidents that happened that still makes me laugh to this day, and I just find so funny as to how this person can just be like this. I don't know who she's living with now, but I pray for them to be dealing with her. We had the counter, which was kind of like a loop brown, like any kind of counter in a kitchen most days. Everyone had their cupboard and whatever, but I wasn't aware. Apparently everyone had their own space on the counter, according to my flatmate, because one day I was making food and I think a couple of rice grains were on the side of the counter, like next to the cooker, and I just left it because I wanted to eat my food. I went off to my room, was eating, got a knock on the door. I thought, she's coming to tell me to turn my TV down, this isn't fair. I opened the door and she says, have you been cooking? I said, yeah, I've just made my tea or my dinner or whatever. Why? And I was like, just because there's some bits of rice on my side of the counter and I just like to let you know I like to keep that area clean. Like when I'm cooking, I always wash up and like wipe up and stuff, and I was just like, okay, I'll come and like wipe them up in a minute, I'll just finish eating my food. But the thing that kind of got me was when she went, my side of the counter. What side? None of us have sides. Like her cupboard was like underneath the bit of the counter that I was on, but that bit of the counter was right next to the cooker and I needed it. How can you just be like, no, that's my part of the counter? Like, what if I said my part of the counter was my bit? I was next to the sink, so does that technically mean the sink was my counter so she couldn't use it? Oh, it irritated me so bad. It just got worse. I got told off one day because my bedroom door was open and I had 2 friends round. And we were sat chatting, just waiting for other people to turn up so we could leave. Down walks Rummy and asks me, can I shut the door because we're talking too loud? I'm sorry, what? We were just chatting normally and apparently she couldn't concentrate because we were chatting. Felt like I couldn't bloody breathe in that flat without being told to shut up. And then it even happened with security had to come and tell us to be quiet because me and my friends were playing a game of FIFA. None of us had been drinking, we were just having a games night, and in walks a security guard who we all knew and who we actually got on with quite well, and he even said to us like, I've had a noise complaint from within the flat, can you just like turn it down a little bit? And we were just like, yeah, okay. So we turned the TV down and we quietened down a little bit, and even the flaming security guard said, I don't agree what's been said, but it's my job, so I've got to come and tell you. And he stood there and watched us play. Even the freaking security guard doesn't agree with you sending him up and complaining all the time at us. You're living in student halls, it's not like a freaking library. You think that was kind of the worst of it, getting security on us, but when there's alcohol involved, that's when it all kind of blew up and went to shit. Once again, had friends round. I think we were celebrating like something, I think finishing the year, having some drinks. It was a Saturday night, about 10-11 o'clock again. Bearing in mind again, like I said, Saturday night, not like a midweek thing, a Saturday when most people do stuff on a weekend and go out and be with friends. But we were all quite drunk, having a bit of a good time and all that. And then Rummy comes in. First she goes, can you turn it down a little bit? And we were just like, with being drunk, we were kind of like, oh for fuck's sake, yeah. Turned it down a little bit and we continued on drinking. We ended up continuing on till a bit later in the night, till about 12, 1 o'clock. And by this time we were all quite like happily drunk, and Rummy walks in, pops her head round, looks at me and goes, can I have a word with you? Yeah, sure. Walk out into the corridor, and she just starts going at me, saying about how disrespectful I am, that I've got people round, she can't concentrate. And then I just lost it. I just lost it, and I just told her like, what the hell does she expect? Because it's like student flats. I said she blames it on me all the time when half the time it's the flat opposite us. I said I can't even play my own guitar. I just went at her. I just cracked at that point. She deserved to know. Like, all my friends were backing me up. We never saw eye to eye again, but after that she kind of left me to it and I just didn't give a shit anymore. Like, I really didn't care. The weird thing that kind of settled it all for me was, while I was there, sometimes she would come to me and ask me could she use my phone to contact her mum, and I was like, okay, that's fine. This then meant her mum had my mobile number. When their parents hadn't been in contact with her for a couple of weeks, they would text me. But when this started, I had already moved out. Like, I'd moved out of my flat I think 4 weeks earlier. Didn't just start texting me, I was getting phone calls, and I don't really answer like numbers I don't recognise. They kept ringing me, and I was with my friends. I think we were up at mine, like at home here, and eventually one of them answered for me. I think it was a sister or a mum or something, asking if I'd seen her, and I was like, no, I've not been in contact with her. Like, so they were just like, okay, can you like tell her if you see her? And I was like, well, I'm not gonna see her because I don't like live there. I think after I'd been on the phone with her, my sister did text me asking could like I try and get in contact with her, and I was just like, look, I've not lived there for weeks, I don't appreciate her giving you my number. Like, why? I didn't want some randomer's mum or sister or whoever ringing me, even if I did, or like even if I did live with her for like 8 months or something. I didn't want them ringing me. Yeah, that is basically that flatmate who just made my life friggin' fun for first year, and I hope you enjoy hearing about the misfortune of my life, I guess. So yeah, thank you for watching this, and I will see you next week. Bye. Not that loud. Friggin' phone! Ooh, I've lost my train of thought now, thanks phone. Like, we did have times where we were... Bleh. We did... Bloody hell. Hello, Stan. You doing your bins? Still, oh god, there's... Postman.